learners for our kindergarten and elementary school students with regards to week after week, kind of allowing those opportunities to happen in person. But certainly from a special education standpoint, in speaking with our team chairs this week, I think that there's generally speaking been a lot of positive collaboration and a sense of optimism in the sense of, hey, this can work, and we're in a pretty good place, and there's opportunity here. Not to say that it's any easier than we thought it was going to be, but you know, I would say for a good chunk of our students, especially ones that receive higher numbers of services throughout the day, specialized services throughout the day, that we're looking at least 4 days a week in person. That doesn't necessarily mean every minute of every day, but certainly in pockets. So I just want to also be clear, there was a little bit of, I think, just confusion, and that's most likely on my end, is that the in-person opportunities starting on the 14th will still follow that hybrid half-day model, or at least the half-day model. So we're not going to at least start the school year with full days till 2:30. And really the goal, the goal is to maintain that phased-in approach. And we want to ensure that our kids that require that transition time, to be able to have that to be meaningful, coming back to a school setting that, you know, for all intents and purposes can be considered scary right now, and from our preschoolers all the way up to our adults, right? And that's very real right now. We're all feeling that. And so that's our goal, is to phase our kids back in a non-threatening, very comfortable and safe way. And so you know, we may not hit the ground running day one with hitting every minute of child service delivery grid for our reading tutorial, right, or something like that, because we want to ensure that those relationships are built, that our students feel comfortable coming back the next day, so that we can really put ourselves in a position to maximize these services. And so our thought there is if we were to jump in with both arms and both legs into the deep end, that if something were to go wrong, we'd be really not in a good place. And so to err on the side of caution and to take it slow, we want to ensure that we have that head start for our kids that really need it the most, but we're going to focus on ways to ensure a longer lasting process here throughout the school year. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Awesome. So moving down, we have, will students in the elementary school, specifically third grade, have their own email addresses?
Oh, that is a great question. I don't know the answer. I'm sorry. That's a little bit out of my realm. I probably should know that answer. I've heard there's been a lot of conversation about it and differencing of, I guess, perspectives on whether they should or should not. But I'll be honest with you, I just don't know the answer. I'll write it down. I'll check in with Nan Murphy, our assistant superintendent, and Kathy Hennessy, our tech director, on that. And if Mary, I don't know if the way we're set up, I can't see who wrote that, but you don't have to tell me. But later on, if you want to just let me know, I can follow up with that person about that.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Our next question is, I have an incoming senior and we are beginning to set up his remote learning workspace at home. Will there be a specific list of needed equipment and supplies or guidance on how to best set up his home workspace?
That's a great question. I love that idea and thought. I don't know that it's really been addressed in a formal, I guess, overarching standpoint. But, you know, I think we've, especially, you know, special education, we kind of really take things case by case in that sense, where a working learning space may look differently for every kid. But I love that idea and that concept. So let me touch base on that. Certainly at the high school level, you know, it would look a lot different than elementary level, right? That's a natural statement. But I think where the high school is one-to-one with their laptop initiative and really trying to be thoughtful and maximizing the Google platform and technology, that you know, that's going to be the name of the game. I think I just want to relate it to that, make sure that parents, all of you, are aware that that's on us as a district to ensure that your child has a device that works and is accessible for them. So please, I know that information, data, you know, survey data has been collected and whatnot, but please let us know if you run into any snags on that. But that's a great question about the specific learning and, you know, learning environment for remote learning.
Right. Just scanning along. And just regarding the emails, it would be a school email, not a private email. Are
Right.
they going to
Yep.
receive school email addresses?
Yep.
All right. I currently don't have any more incoming questions.
Do you have a joke, Mary? Any good jokes?
No, I was trying to think of one. You know, I was just haven't quite got there yet today. Been a busy day. Drove up to Maine, and now I'm on the Zoom. So, um, let's see. We're gonna admit Scott Solberg. He'll have a good joke for us.
Sure you will.
Great. So now I do have somebody with another question. While I know specifics are not nailed down, social skill groups via Zoom didn't happen at the middle school level last spring. Will social skill groups be in person for hybrid? If we go back to the full remote, will the system be in place to make sure students still have social skill groups? Well, I certainly appreciate the efforts last spring. Vet's social skills group watched clips of The Office and other shows, then were asked to write about what they saw were the social problems in the scene. So they were watching television clips and asked to show what was happening in the scenes.
As crazy as that sounds, I will say for the record, The Office, because I've taken courses on it, is actually a really good show for that, but not at all ideal on what we want to provide. So yes, I would say that the opportunities for the in-person social skills will absolutely be there in terms of structures. Those are the types of specialized supports and services we really want to focus on bolstering up, because that's a great example of it really being specific to a child's best interest to have those in-person opportunities. Now, so those are kind of the logistics. We have to go down that path to figure out how does that exactly work, you know, in terms of space. Is it indoor, outdoor? Are parents on board with that? And I guess the downside, if you will, to a social group is that if we don't have the social aspect, if there's not multiple kids in that would be scheduled in that social group cohort together at once, it's hard to recreate that. If one kid is in school and the others are remote because parents have elected to keep that child remotely, that's just another variable that we have to consider and figure out together. But I can absolutely assure you that those will be options with regards to whether it's with the speech language pathologist or school counselor to explore in that group setting. And we've talked with our service providers about that. So I do want to note related certainly to that, but in general, last Friday, Commissioner Riley from the Department of Education did specify that it is his recommendation that even if Marblehead down the road goes fully remote, or or is in the red zone now, with regards to our state metrics on data tracking for the virus, that shouldn't at least stop the conversation about ways to continue to provide some type of in-person opportunities for kids. So I don't know what that would look like yet. I think that's a lot easier said than done. I think certainly when we start getting into increased numbers within our community, not just for students, but for staff as well, and really considering their safety and well-being. I never want to put any of our staff in a position where they feel guilty or forced, to do those things if numbers continue to increase. So I'm just not sure what that will look like yet, but I do want to put that out there that we'll explore it and see what we can do. And it may turn into kind of a decreased amount of in-person support services and supports, but we could still provide them at times. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there too. There's been a couple questions about that. What if the district then goes fully remote because of increased numbers? The door's still open there for some opportunities. I just don't know what that would look like yet.
Awesome. But we do have one parent that thinks the office idea is a good one. She's
Thank you.
That's a great idea. Great. Then we have another question. What date will the teachers be available in case we need to reach out to a teacher directly before school begins for students?
So teachers, all staff are scheduled to be back on the 31st of August. So that's paras, tutors, our ABA tutors, our teachers, support staff, service providers, everyone in the district is scheduled to be back on the 31st. So that's Monday. I will tell you, this is a good thing. Nan Murphy has worked her butt off to really put together a comprehensive daily schedule for professional development and training. Teachers are going to be busy, yet it's a well-balanced schedule so that, as I mentioned earlier, there are increments throughout every single day of kind of downtime, if you will, or time to collaborate with colleagues or department time or tasks, things like that. So I would say starting the 31st, I guess is fair game to send out emails and expect a response, and things like that. But I do just want to note that, the staff won't just be being back, putting up their bulletin boards and getting their classrooms ready. They're going to be in meetings, in workshops and trainings throughout the week. So just wanted to note that. But to reiterate that my expectation, and I'll be getting this more information out to our department staff by Friday, is that really next week, I do hope that each case manager can reach out to each parent, at least begin that dialogue with regards to what the 14th will look like for each child.
Great. It looks like we do not have any more questions currently. Oh, one just popped in. Please encourage families to reach out to building chairs as well as needed, from Nicole Rosado. So she's asking that we reach out to the building chairs.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Appreciate that. I would agree. As much as I'm happy to do my best to answer, I really, I've asked the principals and the team chairs to truly collaborate moving forward, and to start really digging in on those building specific questions and scheduling. So they are certainly the experts, much more than I am, with regards to what that looks like.
Great. Are there any more questions? Apologize, I've got a busy street behind me.
One other thing that came up, Mary, I got a couple emails, and actually Nicole and I spoke about this with another team chair yesterday. It's just the process of the sibling cohort approach, if you will. If one or more of your children are in the district and one or more of them are on an IEP. So just simply from our department special education perspective, we're going to really focus on, as I've mentioned, looking at what type of schedule can be put together that's really going to maximize the opportunities for your child to make progress, to ensure FAPE, free appropriate public education, right? So that they have full access to that effective progress. So an example, this is just a high level example. If a student is within our language-based program at Village, that cohort, regardless of last name, may be cohort B, just because that's the way that we can structure our specialized services to ensure, again, that we're maximizing those supports. That family may have another child at the high school that's not on an IEP that is in cohort A. I've told the team chairs that's not on us, if you will, the team chairs to then ensure that the Village school is going to work with the high school to get that information, to then move the cohort and all that stuff. Like, that's going to be, we're happy to have that conversation and follow up with the principals or the respective team chair in the other buildings to see what we can do to align that or not. But I just wanted to put that out there that if you receive a phone call from a case manager next week, they're not going to necessarily have information about a sibling that is not on their caseload with regards to what cohort that person's in. And again, it's going to be part of the conversation that we want to be able to follow up proactively and work with you to ensure that you feel comfortable with the plan. But it's not an automatic. If child A is on an IEP and it put in cohort B, that every sibling moves to cohort B no matter what. It's really, I've heard both sides of that from families. Some families say, we don't care, we'd rather just focus on whatever is best, in terms of the special ed service, and we'll worry about the other scheduling. Others say, no, if one's going to be in cohort B, we'd like them all to be. We'll support that. We'll do the very best that we can with all of that, but that's going to be where the principals are going to have to help us out in navigating all that. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that we're not going to have every bit of information on that. I know that may be a little bit concerning, but we right now, I had to, to put it in these terms, special education kind of has to have their blinders on in the sense of really just digging into every child's individual service delivery grid and putting together a plan that's really going to focus individually on that child, and then focus on the sibling cohorts or, other scheduling snags or restrictions after that.
Great. We've got another couple questions coming up. When the case manager reaches out, will they be able to give the students schedule details, or is it more gathering information collaboratively?
Can you repeat the first part? I'm sorry.
When the case manager reaches out, will they be able to give the students schedule details, or is it more gathering information collaboratively?
So I think it's both. The second part, the collaboration is the name of the game. I mean, the case managers are gonna reach out with a schedule, right? To get to the first part of that question, at least with regards to, I think thinking through things, I think it's going to be pretty close to being complete, because we have to consider all aspects of what, again, let's just use Village as an example. It's in my brain, what Village Schools proposed schedule and approved schedule is right now that's been voted on by school committee, and then working around that to develop those in-person opportunities. So if it's not 100% complete, it's going to be really close, because again, we had to schedule those specialized services outside or in, and consider all of those pieces. With that said, what the expectation is not, with regards to those parent engagement forms and that communication with you, is not to just receive a generic email and say, please see the attachment, and that's it. Like, we want this ideally to be, hey, we've developed a thoughtful plan for your child. This is what it looks like. Please let me know when is a good time to connect with you over the phone or via Zoom, because we want to hear that feedback. You've been with your children since March. We haven't. We need to know kind of where things are at, where your child's at, how we can best support your child coming in on the 14th, if that's the plan, how we can do that together. So it's going to be collaborative, but you should be should be provided with a pretty clear schedule with regards to what things are going to look like.
Awesome. We've got another question. If your child is in an inclusion classroom, will they be seeing their classmates from both A and B cohorts if they are likely going to school and getting inclusion services 4 days a week?
These scenarios are admittedly like riddles to me. This is hard for me to visualize. This is me, Eric Oxford, as much as I should know all of this. So I think that there are, without seeing a specific in front of me, it's hard for me to give a very clear answer. I think that there are situations in which a schedule may be proposed that's kind of duplicative in a sense, where it's, it may be, if we're going to say that a child can be in person within their cohort, then, and that it's in their best interest to be in person as much as possible, then I guess in theory, if we're going to maximize the in-person opportunities, there would be a situation in which that could be an option. With that said, even if a child comes to school on their off day, on their remote day, if you will, because we feel as though that's in their best interest, we can support that child in the remote offerings, if that makes sense. So I don't even know if I answered the question well, accurately, and if there's a follow-up to that, that's fine. But we're not looking to have students participate in the same lesson 2 days in a row, back to back. It's really going to be, even if cohort A is in school on Monday and at home on Tuesday, if that child in cohort A is in school Monday and Tuesday, they're still going to follow that Tuesday plan. But they can still receive that more directed specialized support by a staff member in school. So even as I say that, that's variable with regards to the age level, because at the elementary level, it's going to look a lot different than at the high school level, just in terms of what the actual schedule structures are and the expectations of synchronous versus asynchronous learning and things of that nature. So to be honest, that's going to be part of that initial conversation with the case manager and or the team chair in that situation. But I hope that helps a little bit. If it doesn't, feel free, you can clarify the question or just ask it again and I'll try my best. But I hope that helps.
Great. So I'm going to go to the next question. I'm going to ask the person to just clarify if I'm saying it properly. It's regarding the IEPs. I'm assuming they're saying it as if the IEPs are going to be updated and needed to be signed, because it says, when will we be getting the updated IEPs to sign? I don't know if that's regarding any testing done over the summer or services for distant learning. I'm not quite sure.
Okay, well, I can just give a quick overview of what the process is. And generally speaking, the compliance piece of the IEP, our timelines that are traditional within our department are all the same. Everything stays the same. There's no expectation of delays with IEP meetings, with evaluation meetings, anything like that. So I just want to be clear on that. And I think that may dovetail into the question about when will IEPs be sent out. I mean, certainly we need to have an IEP meeting if we're going to propose an IEP. And then again, our timelines are the same. So we fortunately were able to do a lot of work with regards to evaluations, completing them over the summer. A lot of our special educators stepped up, special education teachers and service providers stepped up to complete a good deal of evaluations that were outstanding over throughout the spring. So we're in a good position. We actually got a shout out from the Associate Commissioner of the Department of Education as kind of a model district on being able to be proactive with those. So that's a good thing. We're ahead of the game comparative to a lot of districts in the Commonwealth, but that doesn't mean that we're in perfect shape at all. So there certainly is a bit of a backlog with regards to making sure that evaluations happen and get done as soon as possible. But again, we're going to look to expedite those. We have, plans and structures in place to do that and do the best that we can. So I guess the last thing that I will say, we did this a lot in the spring, is just really, again, trying to be flexible and collaborative as a true team, not in the sense of a district versus parent at all. And really, having an understanding. We want to be fully honest and upfront with you that there may be a situation where strictly from a capacity standpoint, we may be a little bit behind, or your child still may be awaiting an evaluation. I can assure you that you're at the top of our list, but there are ways to kind of expedite the process. For example,
there's a little clarification on it. It's the regular IEP. We have sent them back for revision in June, but have not received them back to sign.
Okay, so I'll get to that in 1 second. But just to clarify, if parents we do this all the time as a district. If we're going to hold an initial evaluation meeting, eligibility meeting or a reevaluation meeting, a lot of times we will have the entire team be part of that. The only requirement at those meetings is one general education teacher and one special education teacher. And not to say that we're trying to be bare bones at all, but and we'll still try to be proactive and as inclusive as possible with regards to who participates in those meetings. But if parents are amenable to those situations, it will certainly expedite the scheduling process for meetings, which will in turn allow us to get services and supports proposed, things like that. With regards to the question, I'm not 100% sure what to say. If it was late June, the teachers really wouldn't have had an opportunity to take a look at those. If it's a partial rejection or an IEP that parents are asking for revision until they do return starting next week. Our team chairs are not full-time either. I just want to point that out as well. So even though they've been working full-time, because I've asked them to do that, but those are all, we do have documentation of all of those things. That was part of our work this summer to really hit the ground running, starting as soon as next week. It's going to be a busy 2 weeks, but those are the things, kind of housekeeping items, if you will, that we want to make sure that everyone feels really good at the start of the school year. So I don't know who asked the question, if you haven't heard from the teacher or the team chair, at least by the start of the school year, the 14th, because there's going to be 2 weeks here where our team can kind of get together. Please feel free to reach out to either your team chair or myself, and we can follow up on that.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of catch up that has to happen with the summer. Great. And I think that catches us up on our questions. If anybody else has a question, please type into the chat. If anybody that joined late does not know the procedure, it's a private chat that will come directly to me and I'll read your question. So if anybody does have a question or a comment or a positive note, that would be great. So I think, no, we'll give it a minute and see if somebody's typing in, but I think everybody's aware how hard the administration, everybody's been working on behalf of the students with all our reentry committees and everybody to get our kids what they need for the school year. So we're just appreciating everything on that end. And we have somebody who's saying, I appreciate Eric's candor.
Thank you. That's my
And
goal.
then once we have the 7:31 meeting with team, could we decide to go hybrid from remote?
Once we have what? I'm sorry, I just didn't hear the first
Once
part.
we have the 7:31 meeting with the team, could we decide to go hybrid from remote? Can you switch?
Not that soon, no. So that's more of a district-wide directive and expectation from Dr. Bucky. You know, really that survey data was needed to be meaningful and accurate, and that's why it was so important for us, because that we have all as a district waited for that to really be able to dig into what the scheduling is going to be, because we needed to see percentages of students that were going to only be remote or would be in the hybrid in order to dictate how many teachers would be allocated for remote only, how many support staff would be remote only. And certainly from a special education perspective, it's one more variable because of compliance and ensuring that the services are provided, and we needed that. So I would say early on, that's a decision. If between now and the 31st, there's a change of heart, feel free to shoot me an email and we can talk about that and work through that. But, or, you know, myself or Dr. Bucky, but but Dr. Bucky has set an expectation that any changes, requests to change from a hybrid to remote or vice versa model would be either a trimester or quarter decision, if you will. And so the middle and high school, the expectation is that students stay within that model at least quarter to quarter, trimester to trimester at the elementary level. I always say special education, there's an exception to the rule. The data is really going to have to drive any decisions on changing plans. And I say that because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that IEP services are being delivered appropriately for that child. And maybe there was an honest mistake on all of our part. Maybe we were really excited as a collaborative group, parents and special education team combined, that, hey, in-person can work, and it just doesn't, right? And if it's just not working and buy-in isn't there from the child, or there's just a level of angst that we just didn't realize, and that's okay, then we need to come back to the table very quickly and maybe shift to remote and do things like that. And so that's where those, I guess, expectations from Dr. Bucky are not, you know, black and white in that sense, because we're going to really dig down and say, hey, if the data is supporting a need for a change or a reexamination of what the proposal is, then we will do that. We want to be proactive with you on that. So I guess the only thing I would say is I would caution a quick switch, if you will, and not just, I know that may be hard, and again, easier said than done, but just, you know, if you as a parent really felt confident in your decision with your survey result, your survey responses, and we feel good as a team in collaborating with you at the beginning of the year here, if the first week or 2 weeks aren't going too great, you know, to put it in a large perspective, that sometimes is the nature of the game with transitioning back to school in a typical school year, and we're not even close to that. And so we're just going to have to, again, balance and be collaborative with balancing that approach and seeing, hey, can we work through this? Can we adjust some things and maintain that same model, that hybrid or remote, or do we really need to come back to the table literally or figuratively and make a quick switch? So I hope that helps.
Great. So currently, no more questions. So it looks like we're doing a good job putting all this information out. If people are not having a lot of questions, people's questions must be getting answered.
I wanted to just take a second to just throw back the compliment that you provided to administration and really shout out to just the teachers, support staff that have volunteered their time throughout this summer, just because they know that it's in the best interest of kids. Certainly parents that are on this call and not, that have not only asked to have meetings, you know, to discuss their child and phone calls, but to just sending me an email and saying, hey, if there's anything I can do to help, or if you want to talk through some stuff, you know, I'm a former educator, or I know this about health and safety and things like that. It's really been powerful to see, you know, just the positive community approach and collaborative approach. So thank you for that. Last but not least, our team chairs. I'm not saying that just because a couple are on the call, but they have about 6 or 7, I think, weeks off as part of their schedule every year, and certainly the majority of the summer every year as part of their contract is off. And I don't know if any of the chairs took any time off this summer. So thank you. I don't know where we would have been without their work. So it's a huge shout out to them.
Awesome. We have some people echoing your thoughts about the teachers and everybody involved, that it's just been great. It's been a real community effort too. And so many people wanted to join the re-entry committees, and they filled up quick. So that's good. And people have put a lot of hours and time and effort into this. And it looks like it's going in the right direction, and everybody seems to be getting the answers they need, which is even more important. That people are able to ask the questions and get the answers. So we appreciate these sessions with you, Eric.
No, and I think the hardest part is, even with all of the hours and hours and hours that so many people have put in and the volunteer work, is that, you know, there's still a sense of angst, right? And people are still nervous and afraid and worrying, and that's all valid and legitimate. And it's really hard, I think, for all of us to know how much effort has gone into this, and we're still not at 100%, or we still just don't know what September 14th will bring or October 5th will bring. We just don't know. And I think that's really scary. But my insight to other districts comes through our bi-weekly, sometimes weekly, throughout the year, special education director meetings. And by and large, you know, just again, the reflections and commentary that I've heard from those directors comparative to our district and community, it's just been incredible to just hear that, you know, our buy-in and our willingness and participation as a true community is leaps and bounds beyond others around us. And so that's huge, you know, just thinking about those things. So it's very powerful, and I hope that we can continue to just remain open and understand we're not going to do things even close to perfectly, but the effort has certainly been there. I know it will continue to be. So yeah, shout out to everyone.
Right. So I'm just going to leave it open for one more minute if anybody has anything else to say, and we will plug CPAC again in our meetings. And we do have open comment, so you're welcome to come there. And if you're not comfortable with being on the meeting, please feel free to email us, and we can present your information at any meeting. If you're not able to attend a meeting, please feel free to email us, and I'll be happy to present your questions and get the answers back to you. So that's another option. Not everybody can make every Zoom at every time, so please use that as an option too. And then we also have our Facebook page, which is a great way to get information. We are updating our website constantly. So we are adding some more elements to our website to make it more user-friendly, and it does also connect to the district's website. So it's great. And yeah, please just stay in touch. I guess communication is the best way to get this done. All right. Everyone's saying thank you, thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you all. We'll plan to we'll plan to be back here next week.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.